Hare Krishna, dear devotees, welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books, right here in the live studios in Hythe, Kent, southeast England, just near the English Channel. Anglo-Saxon for Hythe means haven. So we've tried to establish a haven, safe haven, that is, for those who are interested in advancing in spiritual life by hearing transcendental sound, Shabda Brahma, coming from Srila Prabhupada's books. And we hope to create a revolution in this world's misdirected civilization. And the apparent misdirection is more and more clear, isn't it, every day? Just how little the leaders are understanding human psychology and what the need is of the soul. So let us contribute our might and put out this sound vibration. You'll be happy to know that the Madhya Lila is almost finished in the what's it called? The mastering stage. So looks like within a month we'll be able to send the mastered files to the BBT for the Chaitanya Charitamrita audiobook. Hare Krishna. After all this time, it's a great achievement, and we can't wait until the devotees start hearing the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Okay. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Mahima Stotram by Srila Sanatana Goswami, his glorious description of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. It goes like this. Sarva Shastrabdi Piyusha Sarva Vedaika Satpala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnaja Sarva Lokaika Drikprada. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Purāṇa Śrīmad-Bhāgavata Prabho Kalidvanduditaditya Sri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Sri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya Prema Varshakshadayate Sarvada Sarvatevaya Sri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Sri Krishna himself. Madeka Bando Matsangin Madguro Mad Mahadana Manistadaka Mad Bhagya Mad Anandanamostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Asadu sadutadayin atini chochata kada hanamunchagadachin mam premna ritkanta yokspura. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So the history leading up to the speaking of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam by Shukadev Goswami to Maharaj Parikshit is continuing in the 7th chapter of the first canto of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. The son of Droṇa punished. We're beginning with text 8. The great sage Vyasadeva, after compiling the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam and revising it, taught it to his own son, Sri Shukadeva Goswami, who was already engaged in self-realization. Purport. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is the natural commentation on the Brahma Sutras compiled by the same author. This Brahma Sutra, or Vedanta Sutra, is meant for those who are already engaged in self-realization. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is so made that one becomes at once engaged in the path of self-realization simply by hearing the topics. Although, shall I hear that again? Shall we hear that again? All right. All right. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is so made that one becomes at once engaged in the path of self-realization simply by hearing the topics. Although it is especially meant for the Paramahamsas, or those who are already engaged in self-realization, it works into the depths of the hearts of those who may be worldly men. Worldly men are all engaged in sense gratification. But even such men will find in this Vedic literature a remedial measure for their material diseases. Shukadeva Goswami was a liberated soul from the very beginning of his birth, and his father taught him Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Amongst mundane scholars, there is some diversity of opinion as to the date of compilation of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. It is, however, certain from the text of the Bhagavatam that it was compiled before the disappearance of King Parikshit and after the departure of Lord Krishna. When Maharaj Parikshit was ruling the world as the king of Bharatvarsha, he chastised the personality of Kali. According to revealed scriptures, in astrological calculation, the age of Kali is in its 5,000th year. Therefore, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam was compiled not less than 5,000 years ago. Mahabharata was compiled before Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, and the Purāṇas were compiled before Mahabharata. That is an estimation of the date of the compilation of the different Vedic literatures. The synopsis of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam was given before the detailed description under instruction of Narada. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is the science for following the path of Nivritti Marg. The path of Pravritti Marg was condemned by Narada. That path is the natural inclination for all conditioned souls. The theme of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is the cure of the materialistic disease of the human being, or stopping completely the pangs of material existence. Text 9. Sri Shaunaka asked Sutta Goswami. Sri Shukadeva Goswami was already on the path of self-realization, and thus he was pleased with his own self. So why did he take the trouble to undergo the study of such a vast literature? Purport. For the people in general, the highest perfection of life is to cease from material activities and be fixed on the path of self-realization. Those who take pleasure in sense enjoyment, or those who are fixed in material bodily welfare work, are called karmis. Out of thousands and millions of such karmis, one may become an Atmarama by self-realization. Atma means self, and Arama means to take pleasure. Everyone is searching after the highest pleasure, but the standard of pleasure of one may be different from the standard of another. Therefore, the standard of pleasure enjoyed by the karmis is different from that of the Atmaramas. The Atmaramas are completely indifferent to material enjoyment in every respect. Srila Shukadev Goswami had already attained that stage, and still he was attracted to undergo the trouble of studying the great Bhagavatam literature. This means that Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is a postgraduate study even for the Atmaramas, who have surpassed all the studies of Vedic knowledge. Text 10. Sutta Goswami said, all different varieties of Atmaramas, those who take pleasure in the Atma, or spirit self, especially those established on the path of self-realization, though freed from all kinds of material bondage, desire to render unalloyed devotional service under the personality of Godhead. This means that the Lord possesses transcendental qualities and therefore can attract everyone, including liberated souls. And we'll read the Sanskrit. This is a very famous verse. Lord Chaitanya explained this verse in 64 different ways to Sanatana Goswami. Atmaramas chamunayo nirgranta apyurukrame kurvant yahaitukim bhaktim itam bhuta guno harihi. Sutta Goswami said, all different varieties of Atmaramas, those who take pleasure in the Atma, or spirit self, especially those established on the path of self-realization, though freed from all kinds of material bondage, desire to render unalloyed devotional service under the personality of Godhead. This means that the Lord possesses transcendental qualities and therefore can attract everyone, including liberated souls. Purport. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explained this Atmarama shloka very vividly before his chief devotee, Srila Sanatana Goswami. He points out 11 factors in the shloka, namely 1. Atmarama, 2. Muniyaha, 3. Nirgranta, 4. Api, 5. Cha, 6. Urukrama, 7. Kurvanti, 8. Ahaitukim, 9. Bhaktim, 10. Itam Bhuta Gunaha, and 11. Harihi. According to the Vishwa Prakash Sanskrit dictionary, there are 7 synonyms for the word Atma, which are as follows. 1. Brahman, the absolute truth. 2. Body. 3. Mind. 4. Endeavor. 5. Endurance. 6. Intelligence. And 7. Personal habits. The word Muniyaha refers to 1. Those who are thoughtful. 2. Those who are grave and silent. 3. Ascetics. 4. The persistent. 5. Mendicants. 6. Sages. And 7. Saints. The word Nirgranta conveys these ideas. 1. One who is liberated from nations. 2. One who has no connection with scriptural injunction. That is, one who is freed from the obligation of the rules and regulations mentioned in the revealed scriptures, like ethics, Vedas, philosophy, psychology, and metaphysics. In other words, the fools, illiterate urchins, etc., who have no connection with regulated principles. 3. A capitalist, and also 4. One who is penniless. According to the Shabdakosha dictionary, The affix ni is used in the sense of 1. Certainty, 2. Counting, 3. Building, and 4. Forbiddance. And the word granta is used in the sense of wealth, thesis, vocabulary, and so on. The word urukrama means the one whose activities are glorious. Krama means step. This word urukrama specifically indicates the Lord's incarnation as Vamana, who covered the whole universe by immeasurable steps. Lord Vishnu is powerful, and his activities are so glorious that he has created the spiritual world by his internal potency and the material world by his external potency. By his all-pervading features, he is everywhere present as the Supreme Truth, and in his personal feature, he is always present in his transcendental abode of Goloka Vrindavan, where he displays his transcendental pastimes in all variegatedness. His activities cannot be compared to anyone else's, and therefore the word urukrama is just applicable to him only. According to Sanskrit verbal arrangement, kurvanti refers to doing things for someone else. Therefore it means that the Atmaramas render devotional service unto the Lord not for personal interest, but for the pleasure of the Lord, urukrama. Hetu means causal. There are many causes for one's sense gratification, and they can be chiefly classified as material enjoyment, mystic powers, and liberation, which are generally desired by progressive persons. As far as material enjoyments are concerned, they are innumerable, and the materialists are eager to increase them more and more because they are under the illusory energy. There is no end to the list of material enjoyments, nor can anyone in the material universe have all of them. As far as the mystic powers are concerned, they are 8 in all, such as to become the minutest in form, to become weightless, to have anything one desires, to lord it over the material nature, to control other living beings, to throw earthly globes into outer space, etc. These mystic powers are mentioned in the Bhagavatam. The forms of liberation are 5 in number. Therefore, unalloyed devotion means service to the Lord without desire for the above-mentioned personal benefits. And the powerful personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, can be fully satisfied by such unalloyed devotees free from all sorts of desires for personal benefit. Unalloyed devotional service of the Lord progresses in different stages. Practice of devotional service in the material field is of 81 different qualities, and above such activities is the transcendental practice of devotional service, which is one, and is called sadhana bhakti. When unalloyed practice of sadhana bhakti is matured into transcendental love for the Lord, the transcendental loving service of the Lord begins gradually developing into 9 progressive stages of loving service under the headings of attachment, love, affection, feelings, affinity, adherence, following, ecstasy, and intense feelings of separation. The attachment of an inactive devotee develops up to the stage of transcendental love of God. Attachment of an active servitor develops up to the stage of adherence, and that of a friendly devotee develops up to the stage of following. And the same is also the case for the parental devotees. Devotees in conjugal love develop ecstasy up to the stage of intense feelings of separation. These are some of the features of unalloyed devotional service of the Lord. According to the Haribhakti Sudodaya, the import of the word itam bhuta is complete bliss. Transcendental bliss in the realization of impersonal Brahman becomes comparable to the scanty water contained in the pit made by a cow's hoof. It is nothing compared to the ocean. It is nothing compared with the ocean of bliss of the vision of the personality of Godhead. The personal form of Lord Sri Krishna is so attractive that it comprehends all attraction, all bliss, and all tastes, rasas. These attractions are so strong that no one wants to exchange them for material enjoyment, mystic powers, and liberation. There is no need of logical arguments in support of this statement, but out of one's own nature, one becomes attracted by the qualities of Lord Sri Krishna. We must know for certain that the qualities of the Lord have nothing to do with mundane qualities. All of them are full of bliss, knowledge, and eternity. There are innumerable qualities of the Lord, and one is attracted by one quality after another. There are innumerable qualities of the Lord, and one is attracted by one quality, while another is attracted by another. Great sages, such as the four bachelor devotees, Sanaka, Sanatana, Sananda, and Sanat Kumara, were attracted by the fragrance of flowers and tulsi leaves, anointed with the pulp of sandalwood, offered at the lotus feet of the Lord. Similarly, Shukadev Goswami was attracted by the transcendental pastimes of the Lord. Shukadev Goswami was already situated in the liberated stage, yet he was attracted by the pastimes of the Lord. This proves that the quality of his pastimes has nothing to do with material affinity. Similarly, the young cowherd damsels were attracted by the bodily features of the Lord, and Rukmini was attracted by hearing about the glories of the Lord. Lord Krishna attracts even the mind of the goddess of fortune. He attracts in special cases the minds of all young girls. He attracts the minds of the elderly ladies by maternal affection. He attracts the mind of the male in the humors of servitude and friendship. The word Hari conveys various meanings, but the chief import of the word is that he, the Lord, vanquishes everything inauspicious and takes away the mind of the devotee by awarding pure transcendental love. By remembering the Lord in acute distress, one can be free from all varieties of miseries and anxieties. Gradually, the Lord vanquishes all obstacles on the path of devotional service of a pure devotee, and the result of 9 devotional activities, such as hearing and chanting, becomes manifested. By his personal features and transcendental attributes, the Lord attracts all psychological activities of a pure devotee. Such is the attractive power of Lord Krishna. The attraction is so powerful that a pure devotee never hankers for any one of the 4 principles of religion. These are the attractive features of the transcendental attributes of the Lord. In adding to this the words api and cha, one can increase the imports unlimitedly. According to Sanskrit grammar, there are 7 symptoms. There are 7 synonyms, According to Sanskrit grammar, there are 7 synonyms for the word api. So by interpreting each and every word of this shloka, one can see unlimited numbers of transcendental qualities of Lord Krishna that attract the mind of a pure devotee. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. How deep was that? Text 11. Srila Shukadev Goswami, son of Srila Vyasadeva, was not only transcendentally powerful, he was also very dear to the devotees of the Lord. Thus he underwent the study of this great narration, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Purport. According to the Brahma-Vaivarta Purāṇa, Srila Shukadev Goswami was a liberated soul even within the womb of his mother. Srila Vyasadeva knew that the child after his birth would not stay at home. Therefore, he, Vyasadeva, impressed upon him the synopsis of the Bhagavatam so that the child could be made attached to the transcendental activities of the Lord. After his birth, the child was still more educated in the subject of the Bhagavatam by recitation of the actual poems. The idea is that generally the liberated souls are attached to the feature of impersonal Brahman with a monistic view of becoming one with the Supreme Whole. But by the association of pure devotees like Vyasadeva, even the liberated soul becomes attracted to the transcendental qualities of the Lord. By the mercy of Sri Narada, Srila Vyasadeva was able to narrate the great epic of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, and by the mercy of Vyasadeva, Srila Shukadev Goswami was able to grasp the import. The transcendental qualities of the Lord are so attractive that Srila Shukadev Goswami became detached from being completely absorbed in impersonal Brahman and positively took up the personal activity of the Lord. Practically, he was thrown from the impersonal conception of the Absolute, thinking within himself that he had simply wasted so much time in devoting himself to the impersonal feature of the Supreme. Or in other words, he realized more transcendental bliss with the personal feature than the impersonal. And from that time, not only did he himself become very dear to the Vishnu Janas, or the devotees of the Lord, but also the Vishnu Janas became very dear to him. The devotees of the Lord, who do not wish to kill the individuality of the living entities, and who desire to become personal servitors of the Lord, do not very much like the impersonalists, and similarly, the impersonalists who desire to become one with the Supreme are unable to evaluate the devotees of the Lord. Thus, from time immemorial, these two transcendental pilgrims have sometimes been competitors. In other words, each of them likes to keep separate from the other because of the ultimate personal and impersonal realizations. Therefore, it appears that Srila Shukadev Goswami also had no liking for the devotees. But after he himself became a saturated devotee, he desired always the transcendental association of the Vishnu Janas. And the Vishnu Janas also liked his association once he became a personal Bhāgavata. Thus, both the son and the father were completely cognizant of transcendental knowledge in Brahman, and afterwards, both of them became absorbed in the personal features of the Supreme Lord. The question as to how Shukadev Goswami was attracted by the narration of the Bhagavatam is thus completely answered by this shloka. Hare Krishna. Text 12. Sutta Goswami thus addressed the rishis, headed by Shonaka. Now I shall begin the transcendental narration of the Lord Sri Krishna and topics of the birth, activities, and deliverance of King Parikshit, the sage amongst kings, as well as topics of the renunciation of the worldly order by the sons of Pandu. Purport. Lord Krishna is so kind to the fallen souls that he personally incarnates himself amongst the various kinds of living entities and takes part with them in daily activities. Any historical fact, old or new, which has a connection with the activities of the Lord, is to be understood as a transcendental narration of the Lord. Without Krishna, all these supplementary literatures, like the Purāṇas and Mahabharata, are simply stories or historical facts. But with Krishna, they become transcendental. And when we hear of them, we at once become transcendentally related with the Lord. This is so profound. Let me repeat these last couple of sentences again. Matter of fact, I'll begin the purport again. Lord Krishna is so kind to the fallen souls that he personally incarnates himself amongst the different kinds of living entities and takes part with them in daily activities. Any historical fact, old or new, which has a connection with the activities of the Lord, is to be understood as a transcendental narration of the Lord. Without Krishna, all these supplementary literatures, like the Purāṇas and Mahabharata, are simply stories or historical facts. But with Krishna, they become transcendental. And when we hear of them, we at once become transcendentally related with the Lord. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is also a Purāṇa, but the special significance of this Purāṇa is that the activities of the Lord are central and not just supplementary historical facts. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is thus recommended by Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as the spotless Purāṇa. There is a class of less intelligent devotees of the Bhagavata Purāṇa who desire to relish at once the activities of the Lord narrated in the 10th canto without first understanding the primary cantos. They are under the false impression that the other cantos are not concerned with Krishna, and thus, more foolishly than intelligently, they take to the reading of the 10th canto. These readers are specifically told herein that the other cantos of the Bhagavatam are as important as the 10th canto. No one should try to go into the matters of the 10th canto without having thoroughly understood the purport of the other 9 cantos. Krishna and his pure devotees, like the Pandavas, are on the same plane. Krishna is not without his devotees in all the rasas, and the pure devotees, like the Pandavas, are not without Krishna. The devotees of the Lord are interlinked, and they cannot be separated. Therefore, topics about them are all Krishna Katha, or topics of the Lord. Hare Krishna. I mean, is it true that every time we hear this Bhagavatam, it's like we're hearing it for the first time? Indeed. So today is Ekadasi, very auspicious day to hear the details like this of the glories of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam and the glories of Shukadeva Goswami and Vyasadeva, and the pure devotees of the Lord follow them. So we'll end today's reading. It's exactly 7:45. Hare Krishna. All glories to the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. All glories to the power of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam to connect us with Krishna in a way that we become transcendentally situated, at least while we're hearing, if we're hearing seriously with rapt attention under the instructions of Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. Okay, we'll stop here. Any reflections or discussions by the assembled sages are more than welcome. Hare Krishna.
First is from Gopakanya Devi Dasi.
Hare Krishna Gopaka, she's usually first off the blocks. She's always glorified the devotees in the reading of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Hare Krishna.
She says, Hare Krishna, dear Maharaj and all assembled sages. Happy Ekadashi. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and the Shabda Brahma of your daily reading service, dear Maharaj.
Hare Krishna, thank you very much. May your words stay true. Hare Krishna.
And from Rati Manjari.
Haribo Rati.
She says, Jai Guru Maharaj, may the fortunate sound vibration enter our ears, minds, and hearts.
Yes, and may they go deep and may they stay there forever.
And from Gopal Roy.
Yes, Gopal Roy, Haribo.
Thank you for this evening's reading, Maharaj. The purport to the Atma Rama verse was wonderful. Could you please explain these sentences? Quote, unalloyed devotional service of the Lord progresses in different stages. Practice of devotional service in the material field is of 81 different qualities, and above such activities is the transcendental practice of devotional service, which is one and is called sadhana bhakti.
It means that when you're in the material world, there are so many goals. There's so many things to try to achieve. But in the spiritual world, there's only one goal. So that means that the material existence is complicated and a source of disturbance to the soul. Because there's always something which appears to be newer or fresher to attract the soul. So the soul is just wandering from one body to another, from one planet to another, from one universe to another, trying to overlord the material nature in unlimited varieties of activities and in sense gratification. But the devotional service of the Lord is simple and has only one goal, and that's to satisfy Krishna, the senses of Krishna. And once one achieves that platform, there is also an unlimited varieties of tastes and activities and loving exchanges with the Lord and with the Lord's pure devotees. Hare Krishna. That's the meaning of that sentence.
He also commented, it seems Srila Prabhupada is saying here that sadhana bhakti is practiced above the modes of material nature and is transcendental. I was in the understanding that sadhana bhakti is what we practice while still in the modes of nature.
Well, bhakti, the word bhakti, it means the same thing. Sadhana bhakti and bhava bhakti and prema bhakti are all bhakti. The activities of pure devotional service, when we render them, when we're not yet liberated, are not within the modes of nature, but they are also, the soul can't yet taste or experience all the symptoms of pure transcendental loving service. So sadhana bhakti is also bhakti, but it is bhakti rendered by the practical, physical senses while one is still identified with the body. But when one renders transcendental loving service from the spiritual plane with the knowledge of one's self, being fixed in the knowledge of oneself, being an eternal servant of Krishna, from that point on he enters into a higher plane of bhakti yoga. And those different stages are described by Srila Prabhupada in his Bhagavad Gita purports, and also by Rupa Goswami in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, to be hearing and chanting and praying and serving and worshiping and praying and befriending the Lord and giving up everything. The Shikshastakam is describing also these different stages of development of devotional service, from the beginning of being attracted to the holy name to the end of giving oneself completely to Krishna without any other thing. So devotional service is like that, but it doesn't mean that devotional service practiced by a devotee in the beginning stages of sadhana bhakti are any different than the activities done by pure devotees in the spiritual world. They're just in a different consciousness. The sadhana bhakti means to practice. So the activities of devotional service, chanting the holy name, hearing and chanting the glories of Krishna in the Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and Chaitanya Charitamrita, the activities of doing deity worship, the chanting of japa, the Nam Sankirtan, congregationally chanted by the devotees, in public especially, all these are activities of pure devotional service. But one may not be in the consciousness to be able to taste it fully yet. And that is the stage of sadhana bhakti in the beginning. But as we advance, as our hearts become purified, and as we dedicate ourselves to the activities of pure devotional service exclusively, then we enter into the realm of transcendental loving service. And that culminates in personal service to the Lord, in loving exchanges. But the whole thing is called bhakti, properly called bhakti, because in all of those stages, the idea is to connect oneself to Krishna. So when we connect with Krishna and our mind doesn't go away from Krishna at all, then we enter into pure loving devotional service to Krishna. But what we do in sadhana bhakti is also devotional service. It is also bhakti, and it gives us an immediate sense of freedom from anxiety and troubles. It purifies the heart and allows us to enter deeper into the devotional platform, whereby our mind and our senses are always engaged in Krishna somehow or other. So if you're engaged in following the regulated principles and chanting 16 rounds a day, every day, and trying to avoid offenses, and engaging in the Sankirtan movement of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as propagated by Prabhupada all over the world, then we are already engaged in pure devotional service. It's just a matter of becoming more and more absorbed until we forget our material existence and have no more material activities, no more material connections. We can achieve that from any position in life. That is the glories of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's association and teachings and example. Hare Krishna, I don't know where that came from, but there it is.
Sudevi Dasi says Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna, Sudevi Dasi.
And Bhakta Rupa,
Haribo Bhakta Rupa.
he says, thank you Maharaj, this is amazing. We keep hearing how Krishna Katha is non-different than association with Krishna. When we hear with rapt attention, Krishna is there.
Yes.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, exactly. So to the degree that we perceive that while we're doing devotional service is the degree of advancement we have attained in devotional service. Hare Krishna.
And from Daitari Hari.
Yes, Daitari Hari.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Jai Srila Prabhupada.
I wasn't able to listen live last night, but listened to it today. That point you were making about submissive and eager, sincere hearing. The point you were making about submissive and eager, sincere hearing, we attract Krishna's attention, was really inspiring. I really am blessed to have this opportunity to distribute these books and then hear from someone as realized as you. Speak from them in the evening. I definitely feel that when I simply accept this extreme mercy for what it truly is in a simple-hearted and grateful way, Krishna consciousness automatically becomes blissful.
Yes.
It's only when I allow my materially affected mind to contrive and make up artificial difficulties and issues that I lose a taste for this.
Exactly.
I really hope I never take this for granted because it doesn't get any better than this.
Yes.
Thank you for giving us the mercy, Maharaj.
Yes, and for that's a wonderful realization. Thank you very much. Great reflection. And what you just said, points out how all these different conflicts that are going on in the world today, so many conflicts. They can manufacture conflicts. There's all these, conspiracy theories, that are going on. And, whether they're absolutely true or not is actually irrelevant. But they take the mind away from the sincere attempt to be absorbed in Krishna. They're a distraction. And so what you just said really points out to how this simple process of hearing and chanting these transcendental literatures and associating with Srila Prabhupada, who is a liberated soul, and anyone who is following him without deviation, it gives us the solution to all the problems of the material existence in one fell swoop. At once, they're finished. Whether we perceive it or not in the beginning, that's another thing. But it actually does solve all the problems of material existence, both individually and collectively. Hare Krishna.
From Anandamurti Devidasi.
Yes, Anandamurti.
Dear Guru Maharaj and assembled devotees, Hare Krishna and Happy Ekadashi. Thank you so much for today's reading. During hearing, I understand that you are tasting the nectar of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. On the other side, I am feeling I can't taste this nectar like you because I have material consciousness, so the mind often goes to different places. But I am eager to hear with you continuously. Thank you so much for today's reading.
Well, thank you very much, and what can I say? I've dedicated my life to this, and now there are, I don't know exactly how many, I haven't counted up recently, but it's well over 1,100, videos that anyone can watch and hear the Bhagavad Gita, the Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishna book, Bhagavatamrita, read cover to cover, out loud. And these audiobooks also are going to come out one after another now that we are finally getting to the end of the process of releasing the Chaitanya Charitamrita audiobook. And I pray that your blessings that you just explained stay in my activities and in my heart, so that I can continue to do this without deviation for the rest of my life. Hare Krishna. For the benefit of others. And that was one of the main points made in that classic purport about the Atmarama verse. The Atmaramas are blissful because they are doing what they're doing only for the pleasure of others. Means Krishna, his senses, and the senses of anyone who is willing to hear them sincerely. It is selfless service. And it is selfless service that attracts Krishna. Hare Krishna.
From Gauranga Gopal.
Yes, Gauranga Gopal, Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. I love so much this part of the Bhagavatam that we are about to read. Srila Prabhupada's purports help me understand why Krishna and his devotees like the Pandavas are on the same plane. I don't understand why anyone would want to skip it.
Well, why they want to skip it is that they're lusty. Simple as that. And like it said in the purport we just read, they separate things that are connected with Krishna because they're not involved with the conjugal love with the gopis. They separate everything else from Krishna, and they think that's what the Bhagavatam is only. It may be that the great transcendental scholars and devotees have analyzed the different rasas, and that the conjugal rasa has the qualities of all the other rasas, and therefore it is most intimate. But it doesn't mean that the other rasas are less important or less dear to Krishna. Sometimes when we do programs, the question comes up, isn't, Gopi Bhava the goal of devotional service, and therefore shouldn't everyone aspire to be a gopi? So then I always answer that question by asking the inquirer to try to imagine a world with just Krishna and gopis. No Yamuna, no Govardhan Hill, no cows, no wildlife and fauna and flora, no, cowherd boys, no residents of Vrindavan, none of the activities that go on in the spiritual world, which are the prototype of all activities everywhere. You think that would please Krishna? You think Krishna would be pleased in a world where there were just gopis and nothing and no one else? Then you're crazy. Then you don't understand Krishna at all. Hare Krishna.
And from Rati Manjari.
Yes, Rati.
Dear Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. Each night when you begin to read, a whole wonderful world opens up through which I discover Krishna and Krishna consciousness as if for the first time. Tonight I especially
Can you repeat that again? I just got distracted. Something came up on my screen and I looked at it. Please, read that again. This is important. Start from the beginning.
Dear Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. Each night when you begin to read, a whole wonderful world opens up through which I discover Krishna and Krishna consciousness as if for the first time. Tonight I especially like to hear more about the amazing and loving personality of Krishna and how he reciprocates unlimitedly with all his devotees, one by one. To my conditioned and shriveled up mind and heart, it almost seems too good to be true. But by the mercy, faith, and love of devotees such as Srila Prabhupada and your good self, I become convinced and pull into Krishna consciousness again and again, deeper and deeper. This is my daily push and pull between Maya and Krishna and his devotees. It is embarrassing and wonderful at the same time. Thank you for staying on the course of pure devotional service and advocating it endlessly through your daily readings. Your indebted servant.
Well, thank you so much, Hare Krishna. That was beautiful. Thank you for that reflection. That was very deep. It was personal. It was revelatory. And yes, it shows that you are truly on the path of pure devotional service, the way you're seeing things properly. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
And from Amara Devi Dasi.
Amara Devi Dasi, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much for freely distributing this bliss of Srila Prabhupada's nectarian purports. For the very new people who are just starting to chant, what book should we start with? I did On the Way to Krishna and Elevation to Krishna Consciousness. Which book can be taken next? Thank you, Maharaj.
Well, all of those books that you're talking about, Elevation to Krishna Consciousness, Raja Vidya, The King of Knowledge, Easy Journey to Other Planets, they're all based on the Bhagavad Gita and the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. So if you're reading those books and you're starting to get really attracted, then you should go for the Gita, the Bhagavad Gita, because all the basics are there in full. And then from there you can read Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam and Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. And as far as what books to read next, well, the Bhagavatam is meant to be read sequentially from the beginning to the end, one verse after the other. It's organized in such a way as to take your consciousness from the beginning to the end. Bhagavad Gita, then Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, then Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. But the fact is that once you've read through those books beginning to end, you should read them again to beginning to end. But at some point, to go to a particular pastime, to a particular teacher, Prahlad Maharaj or Narada or so many other personalities, Krishna himself in the Uddhava Gita, and to go to those parts and try to understand them more deeply is not wrong. Prabhupada used to call his books like a big bowl of sugar. Wherever you taste them, they're all sweet, and they're all personal, and they're all helpful, and they all give the taste. So I think that you should now read Ishopanishad, then the Bhagavad Gita, and then any of the other books, cover to cover. It's an ocean. Once you jump into this ocean, your material desires will drown, and your spiritual desires will come to the surface, and you'll want to go back to Godhead. You'll want to share this nectar with others. And that is real life. This is Lord Chaitanya's movement. The Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya, to spread the glories of love of God and the holy name, which is the means of achieving that pure love of God in this Kali Yuga. Hare Krishna. Just enjoy. Really enjoy. Hare Krishna.
And this is still from Amara Devi Dasi. She said, Maharaj, I am not sure that these people are really personalists, so I am afraid to start Bhagavad Gita. Should I go ahead with them with the Bhagavad Gita?
Yes. Because Srila Prabhupada's purports protect us. If you read the purports with the verses, then you'll be protected, they'll be protected. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Maharaj.
Without the purports, we can't understand any of these books. But with the purports, we're protected. Even if you read the Chaitanya Charitamrita as the first book you read, Prabhupada had us distributing the Chaitanya Charitamrita, individual volumes, on the streets and in the airports of America in the early 70s. Well, mid-70s. It came out in 75, 76. So why would he do that if it wasn't okay to read that book? Why would he stop the Bhagavatam at the 5th canto to translate and comment on the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita fully, if it wasn't, if he didn't want us to read it? Anyway, I hope that when the audiobook of the Chaitanya Charitamrita comes out, it will create a revolution, and more devotees will listen to it and understand how all the verses, the Chaitanya Charitamrita's verses are peppered, means sprinkled with Gita verses, with Bhagavatam verses, with Upanishad verses, with Vedic verses, with Rasa Shastras. Everything is there. So the books are like that. Prabhupada's purports protect us. If we read the purports and take them seriously, and read the books the way Prabhupada wrote them, in the order Prabhupada wrote them, then we're safe. Hare Krishna. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai. Samabeda Bhakta Binda ki jai. Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. See you tomorrow night. Same place, same time, same topic. The unfolding of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam in front of our ears. Hare Krishna.